channel for lunch, so I'll keep it really precise, and I'll like the panelists to also keep it, because when you have the audience hungry, you don't want to, you want to be very interesting so that they bless you. Sure. So Matt, maybe you just identify the product vertical which you are building on Babylon.
Oh yeah. So we are pretty much in a liquid staking token or liquid staking protocols living on top of Babylon. So we are participated into both the Cap 1 and Cap 2 of Babylon.
Is it working? Because I...
Hello? Hello?
Okay, yeah.
Is it better now? Okay. I'll just be holding it closer to my mouth. So we're the liquid staking protocol living on top of Babylon. And we are participated in both Cap 1 and Cap 2 of the Babylon staking and contributed more than 100 mils of TVLs into Babylon. Super honored to be part of the ecosystem. And our LST standards has been like widely adopted in a lot of different ecosystems, including like BNB Chain, like East Mainnet, Scroll, and many other ecosystems as well.
Congrats. Jeroen?
Yeah, hi. So maybe you saw my talk earlier, but with Persistence, we actually solve for interoperability between Bitcoin L2s, which has been brought up quite often as a potential problem when it comes to scaling BTC DeFi. How we plan to use Babylon is actually by using Bitcoin security to secure our chain, so that these intent-based swaps that we do across these Bitcoin L2s are actually secured by the full power of Bitcoin through Babylon staking. So super excited to be bringing that to mainnet early next year.
Siva?
Yeah, so we are building a Cosmos chain leveraging a type of MPC network, which is a non-collusive MPC network, to provide like, secure programmability and interoperability for Bitcoin.
Awesome. So I guess some of you guys have participated in our mainnet. So maybe I'll ask each one of you guys, the ones who have participated, what's something you liked about it, what's something you didn't like about it, but it's always good to inform the community about the experience. So maybe I'll start with Jeroen. Like, I think Persistence also staked some Bitcoin, as far as I remember.
So that's a sister project, P-Stake,
P-Stake.
Slightly different. I personally looked at Babylon, obviously. I think it was nice. Obviously, looks like the easiest way to actually stake was through liquid staking providers, I think. And I think what was most interesting was just to see the great demand for block space and the enormous fees that were paid, and then to see every like different LST providers, their strategy on like how to optimize for fees versus getting allocations into the first cap, second cap. Nice to see how Babylon also changed the way I think it approached the second cap compared to the first. So, I mean, my experience as a mainnet user is very limited, but we're focused on actually using that security that now has come in later on to really secure the chain.
What's been your experience from the mainnet?
Yeah, I think like mostly it's been like super exciting. And I think like if without Babylon, it's actually really hard to accumulate, let's say, 100 mils of TVL with our like the underlying kind of staking protocols like Babylon. So, but also it's like super competitive as well. I feel like especially in Cap 1, right? So Cap 2 has been like a lot like easier like in terms of like mechanisms. And in the Cap 1, we had to do a lot of like strategy plannings, and also like how do we setting up like the transaction fees for each UTXO and things like that. So I think we did like the overall kind of expenses, like the budgets we spend on it's like the cheapest in all of the LSTs, and we stake a considerable amount. In phase 2, it's significantly easier, and also a lot of kind of huge LPs kind of reach out to us and hoping to stake through us than to Babylon. So it's been like a fast expanding business, and we're super happy to be a part of it. Like the one, like the biggest, like kind of like the emphasis or like the concerns we have is actually like how do we keep it secure for all of the huge amount of capitals we're like holding before it eventually staked into Babylon. So we spend a lot of time on that. So that's kind of the biggest thing there, because there's like huge volumes of capitals we have to take into custody in one way or another before we can safely deposit all of them and stake them into Babylon.
Yeah, I think you guys did a great job, because I think in the first Cap 1, you guys were probably one of the dominant LSTs, and then in Cap 2, there's been like other LSTs coming in. So in terms of like initially taking the risk of staking Bitcoin, that was a very 0 to 1 experience. And so I congratulate the Lorenzo team being very forward in taking on that risk. I guess, Shiva from Native, have you watched the Babylon mainnet? Is there
Yeah.
anything you were excited about?
Yeah, we haven't like started integrating with you guys, but we are exploring the opportunities to work together. We have a slightly different approach in terms of how we want to bring the native Bitcoin into DeFi and provide the programmability. But the space is so huge, and I think there is always opportunities to work with you guys. So yeah, we're actually talking to your team about that.
Yeah, so I think the previous panel, Sunny Agarwal kind of mentioned something that one of the good ambition of a project like Babylon could be to involve miners more actively, because right now we are hoping that the miners are positive players in our system, but they are not an active player in the system, right? So one question, which was the panel before Sunny's panel, where I was with JP, was a lot of times when we meet Bitcoin holders, they say, well, the price of Bitcoin just went up 60% annualized. Why do we need to lock Bitcoin and take on more risk, right? So what is your thought about Bitcoin being a security provider, which is like the block space becomes a security rental, versus the price appreciation? Because fundamentally, from my perspective of being in Babylon, we don't think that the price of an asset would just go up infinitely. So eventually there's a cap to the price appreciation, and a lot of the Bitcoin holders, they have already been holding these assets from 2014, 2016. So the price appreciation does not excite them anymore. What they're looking for is like, is the risk measurable? And if the risk is measurable, if it doesn't have a custody, if it doesn't have a bridge, am I willing to stake it, right? So as guys who are working with Babylon right now, what do you guys see from the Bitcoin holders who are giving major risk which they are perceiving?
Yeah, I can start first. So I think like two things. What's the incentives? Like why it's like a good, like having Babylon is a good fit for like Bitcoin holders. So I think the main reason is that, so the price of Bitcoin is going up is actually a good thing, right? That's why I always tell people, right? So if you are, if you want to do some like savings, you never want to save it in a fiat. So you never want to save it in US dollars or even any other fiats, because like over time your capitals got diluted, right, because of the inflation. So if you want to do some savings, you should always like save it in the form of Bitcoin and just put it there, right? So imagine if you do some like, monthly investment plans in Bitcoin, even if you only like, deposit like $500 every single month, they're going to give you like more than 100% of the yield over the last 3 years, right? So everyone, it's not just like for the miners, but also for the retails, for like any like reasonable like investors. So you should always allocate some of your capitals and deposit and invest into Bitcoin over time, right? But just the Bitcoins going up over time, which also like having like higher opportunity cost for you to spend it. Let's say if today I'm saying like I have to spend some money, and instead of spending my US dollars, I have to spend my Bitcoins. Then I'm thinking like, okay, I'm spending like this $100 worth of Bitcoins. Could it be like 100,000 over the next 2 years? So I'm gonna be hesitating in like spending these like Bitcoin monies in my hand. So a more reasonable, I think a better mindset for that is I will always see Bitcoin as saving, and I always purchasing more Bitcoins and I put it there and hoping the values is going up. But also at the same time, the underlying Bitcoins has been staked into, let's say Babylon, to secure all of the consumer chains. I'm actually like receiving like dividends, or I'm like receiving like monthly incomes like every month, so I can use these yields to cover my like expenses while my capitals keep growing. So that would be like a better like mindsets for doing that. So over time, you keep just depositing, and say if you keep doing this for the next 10 years, and not just your wealth is going to grow exponentially, but also like your monthly income is going to be growing exponentially. So hopefully like everybody's like financial freedom is going to be coming like earlier than expected. So that would be like, I think, the right mindset for doing that. So in the long run, just basically like Babylon works super aligned with the overall kind of Bitcoin like trends, and also the long-term expectations of the Bitcoin price as well, and the global economy for like the Bitcoin as well. So I think for the biggest risks is that, so we needed making sure that underlying Bitcoins are absolutely secured, right? So
I like our team has been like revised a lot of times over the underlying mechanisms of Babylon, and we have 100% trust in that this overall system is going to be like super solid and fine. But for the overall market, it needs time to validate, to prove that, right? So a lot of the LPs, they're super interested and also believes in a vision in the long run as well. The only concern is that this is a relatively new product. So they need some time to test it and making sure it's like everything is fine. But I think like in every like single month, we have like more people got convinced and more interest in depositing. So I honestly think it's gonna be like growing even faster in the next half a year or so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Go for it,
ahead.
go for it.
Shiva, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like Sunny actually mentioned in the previous panel that currently Bitcoin being vastly used in DeFi, but I would say percent of the Bitcoin is actually being used in DeFi, and the opportunity is so huge, right? Like, of course, there are some maxis never want to use and take any risk, but still, like, there's 99% of the Bitcoin is just held, and so we believe that if we provide like a secure and robust platform, like battle-tested platforms, some of that liquidity can be unlocked, and that's what we are also like building for, like having like a trust minimized way of bringing that Bitcoin into like a DeFi and across Interchain would definitely gives a little bit of a motive to bring that Bitcoin into DeFi. But yeah, I think what we are together as an ecosystem now trying to do as providing a more trust minimized bridges would only increase that percentage. As a comparison, like Ethereum, like 17% of the Ethereum is being used in DeFi, right? So the opportunity is huge. But yeah, whatever we are like trying to innovate, I think we'll increase that percentage to more.
Jeroen?
Yeah, I mean, on your question in terms of like, does the value of Bitcoin actually interfere in a way with what we're trying to do here? And like, I think no, this is finance like 101. Look, you have an asset, it's currently not that productive. Sure, it goes up in value, but eventually, as you say, it will probably stop going up in value, or at least it will be less fluctuating that massively. So you want to make that asset more productive, and like you can do a few things already with Bitcoin. Like you can just use it and like you lend it out, so you earn some money in that way, which comes with risks, right? You can run some option strategies, like you can sell some covered call options on your Bitcoin, you make some yield in that way, which comes with risks. And now with Babylon, you actually have an option to stake your Bitcoin. Obviously, it comes with risks, right? So there's different forms of yield that are being generated. Maybe there will be other options to actually generate yield on your Bitcoin. But altogether, like it's traditional finance. Look, it's the same thing. You have an asset, it's not really productive. Maybe 1% of the BTC is currently used in DeFi. You want to make more and more of that Bitcoin productive. And that's, I think, the entire name of the game. Like you try to make things more productive in terms of asset class. Yeah, this is really, I think, the start of a new era where Bitcoin can become that productive asset by using the security of Bitcoin to secure other chains, other protocols, which can generate revenue, contribute some of that revenue back to the security of the protocol and back to Bitcoin stakers, basically. So it comes with risks, obviously. I don't really know exactly how like slashing mechanism and everything will work with Babylon. But yeah, curious to see. And like as with everything in finance, I think the market will price it accordingly. So yeah.
Yeah, so maybe the final question before we head off to lunch. Is security a meme? So that's a massive controversial topic between the founder of Solana and the founder of Eigenlayer. So I wanted to hear, you guys are consumers, builders on top of Babylon. What's your take on security? Is security a meme?
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with Shiva.
Yeah, I don't think it's a meme. It's definitely something very important. I'm in this space for, let's say, 8 years, and I lost a lot of times because of bridging some of the bridges that are not secure. So, and that's also so yeah, I wouldn't consider security as a meme. It is necessary to unlock more liquidity into Web3, basically.
I don't think it's a meme. I think it's actually very important, and I think we're actually seeing this. Like, why would otherwise so many things actually be trying to build on top of Bitcoin, on top of the most secure asset and chain in the world. So absolutely not a meme. I think we'll see it even go up. Bitcoin dominance is at one of the highest points it has been in a very long time. And I actually believe just because the security of Bitcoin is so prominent, so important, that it will continue to go up. I actually think that, I've said in my speech before as well, look, everything else in a way has kind of been tested and like in different chains, like even Ethereum, Solana. But I think eventually everything will come back to Bitcoin because it's the most secure chain to build on. Yeah, so not a meme, but on the other hand, everything's a meme. So, but no, not security, not Bitcoin security.
Yeah, I think it's all fun and games until the real security has been breached, right? So I think like the security topic is more like a fire alarm. So we're like hearing a lot of these fire alarms are actually false alarms. But when there is a real fire, you would hope like it actually works and all of like the, you know, the firefighters and whatever, all these mechanisms could come here to save you immediately. So I think the same way works for Bitcoin as well. It's only that, so it's in a very early stage of Babylon. There are not so many consumer chains already live with Babylon, like staking and all kinds of stuff. So people would be saying like, okay, you know what? So there could be work like this way or another. Actually, it's like, probably it's not that significant of an impact or things like that. But if you really think about it, if one day we have like 50 billion plus of the assets being actually running on all of the Babylon consumer chains, and I'm telling you the underlying security is only secured by, let's say, 100K of assets underlying stake there, this is like the most horrible kind of story I will be hearing in this year. It's like, how would you be securing all of these like huge tons of business building on top of that? So hopefully, I think the BTC staking, staked kind of like decentralized world is going to be securing like all of the on-chain finances, all of like the global decentralized finances, like securing all of these, not just like Bitcoin, but also like real world assets, like Ethereum, all of these like leading tokens, let's say like all of the NASDAQ securities and all these things on-chain. There's going to be like trillions and trillions of like dollars worth of assets being traded on-chain. So if there is a tiny, teeny chance of being hacked, is possible, it will happen. And that's when the time of the whole world is going to be collapsing. So, like I said again, so it's like, it's all fun and games. You can mock about that. You can say like, you know what, it's like preventing this like hacking, but this hacking has never happened for a very, very long time. But if you are putting trillions of dollars at stake, even if it's just like 1 of a million chance of being hacked, once it happens, that's the end of the whole world. So we cannot stand that, we cannot afford that. So yeah, I think security is a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. Maybe as a builder inside Babylon, I would just reiterate this point that in the movie, that with Spider-Man movie, there was a statement that with great power comes great responsibility. So inside Babylon, we know that there's a tremendous amount of TVL to unlock, but at the same time, that TVL, thank you again for the panel. And yeah, we head off to lunch. Thank you, guys.